Are you sick of expensive civics that are wasting your influence while you're trying to use it to expand and build territories and so on? Well, boy, do I have the combination of exploits for you. Let's see it a little bit in practice first, shall we? I'll head down to my society view, I'll open up my civics tree. Oh look, I've got 212 influence at the moment, and I've got artistic expression unlocked. It's a pretty powerful one, right? I get to choose +1 influence on all of my makers' quarters or market quarters. You'll notice I only have 212 influence, and in fact, if we back out, you can see I'm making about 585 per turn. Pretty good. Anyway, back into artistic expression, I think in this case I will take the additional influence on my maker's quarters. I've got quite a lot of those. So I'm at 212. Thankfully, it's not going to cost me a single point of influence. In fact, the game is so confused, thanks to this game-breaking exploit, that it's actually going to cost me influence in reverse. Negative 528. Now, normally, of course, this number would be in the positives. So, despite me only having 212, I can enact this very expensive civic, traditionally, for literally nothing. Look at that. I still have my 212 influence. Now I'm earning even more per turn, and I enacted that civic entirely for free. What does it mean moving forward? Well, basically, every single civic for the rest of the game will be entirely for free. In fact, it's actually having the opposite effect, right? It's actually adding influence to me. It seems that the game isn't actually rewarding me influence, but instead allowing me to enact these things with virtually no cost. Ladies and gents, this is entirely broken, and unlike other things that I've covered on the channel here before, where we're really just finding powerful mechanics and stacking them on top of each other, this is actually a game-breaking exploit. In fact, it's so broken that the developers are working on fixing it for the next patch as a priority. It is just absolutely busted. Look at this. Scientific facts. I have 288 influence. Normally I would not be able to at all enact such an expensive civic right at the end of this tree. However, thanks to the beauty of this exploit, it doesn't matter how much influence I have, I can enact these civics regardless. Want to know more? Well, let me take you through how I did this. So, there are, in fact, 5 key elements. One of them is a culture, so you'll need that. I'll cover it last. But the other 4, really anybody can do. First and foremost, let's talk about the formula for actually how civics are unlocked in this game. I won't bore you with maths too much, but basically here it is on screen. The cost of enacting civics, or indeed actually purchasing them in the first place, is 20 influence plus 5 times your era squared, times the number of civics you have enacted squared. To cancel them, it's another formula entirely. We won't focus on that for this video, just to keep it simple. Keep it simple, stupid. But there are some other things that you'll need to do to reduce the overall cost, right? We can play with this formula through a few things in the game. 2 of them are buried in the tech tree. One is right back toward the beginning of the tree. It is, of course, with writing. You'll see when you research writing, you get this, laws, and it reduces the cost of your civics by 20%. That's the cancelling cost and the enacting cost. Move forward a little bit down the line, in fact, quite far down the line, to encyclopedia. Way up here in the industrial era, but it is the first tech, and you'll notice that actually it's fairly easy to unlock. You just need movable typeface, which before that requires, alchemy. So you can see it's actually quite easy to just beeline along roughly the top of the tree, and then slot yourselves into encyclopedia, where you'll get precedence. Again, another minus 20% cost for cancelling or enacting future civics. Now, the crucial thing to note here, and I'd like to give a big shout out to not only you guys who have helped me in the comments, but also the people who have discovered this on the actual Humankind game forums themselves. Massive shout out to those guys. Anyway, that is what you need for the tech tree. You need writing and encyclopedia, and they'll both apply a negative 20% cost to enacting civics. And it's important to note that at the moment, these are additive enactments, okay? So they stack on top of one another, basically. Now, what else do you need? Well, you'll need 1 civic, unfortunately. And I say unfortunately because At the moment, you can see when you don't have a civic unlocked in Humankind, it doesn't actually quite tell you what you need to do to get it. I'm told the developers are going to make this a little bit more transparent in future, but for the time being, unfortunately, I can't tell you exactly what you're going to need to do in every game to get freedom of speech. But once you get press freedom, you should unlock freedom of speech. This will give you yet another 20% reduction in the cost of cancelling and enacting civics. Fantastic. Then there is one more thing you can unlock in-game, regardless of which cultures you're playing. It's inside of the religious tenets. Let's jump in and have a look. It is in tier number 2, so it's fairly early on. It's Undertake Pilgrimage. Again, minus 25% to the cost of enacting civics on the Empire and cancelling them. If you pull all 4 of these things together, your civics will have a base cost of 15% what they normally would. 15%. It makes them very, very cheap. How do we take this to the next level, though? Well, it's to do with choosing a culture slightly earlier in the game than Encyclopedia. As you move through into the early modern era from the medieval era, you'll need to choose Ming, which you may not have played as before. Actually quite a good culture, but the reason why we need Ming is not for their amazing rocket cart, it's not for the Grand Tea House, but this trait. Grand Secretariat, minus 25% cost on enacting and cancelling civics. This is what really brings it all together for us. Of note here as well, you'll notice on the left-hand side of the screen, I've built my religion in a very specific way to take advantage of this exploit. Of course, I've taken Undertake Pilgrimage in the 2nd tier, but in most other tiers, I've chosen to go the science route. Reason being, I got lucky and got some fairly both productive and agrarian cultures, so my food and industry has been totally fine this whole game. In fact, I've got arguably too much of it. So I was able to structure my religion in a way that not only got me Undertake Pilgrimage, but also some crucial things to get science, which enabled me to push through the tech tree to get Encyclopedia as quickly as possible, pulling all of these ingredients together and having Ming as your culture, and you end up with this entirely broken civics tree, where your civics literally cost you nothing to enact. Now, why does that matter, and should you do it? Well, for starters, this is an exploit, like I say, unlike any other I've covered on the channel before. This one is actually broken. It is actually broken. The developers have addressed it, or they will be addressing it, but, I mean, for the time being, I guess, you can use your influence on other things, right? On expanding to other territories, on building resource extractors, maybe even luxury improvements, on building cities, on trade and negotiations with other empires. Ladies and gents, the options are endless when every single one of your civics is entirely free. Let's watch it play out again. At the moment, I'm actually in the red as far as my influence goes. You can see I'm negative 494, but sure enough, if we jump in here and try to get this again, it'll only cost us negative 613, which means our influence does not change because, of course, the negative cost for enacting a civic is, in fact, a positive, right? A negative plus a negative equals a positive, for those of you who may not remember high school maths or are just naturally not very good mathematicians. Indeed, that is me, folks. I'm with you on that one. But overall, I think you can see how powerful and ludicrously broken this is. And it really is broken. Thankfully, as I say, the devs are well aware of it, so we may not need to worry about it too much going forward. Thank you very much for watching this ludicrous exploit. I hope you enjoyed it. Do play around with it if you want to have a bit of fun with the game. Obviously, it is game breaking, but the developers are fixing it soon. So if you want to get on board with this, get on board with it quickly. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I'll see you in the next one.